In this video, I'd like to introduce you to the Simpsons Diversity Index and how you can use it to measure a diversity within your academic community. So we are drawing from our recent paper published in the Journal of Infometrics, and what we wanted to do in this paper was to look at how international higher education journals were. So one of the analytical tools that we used was the Simpsons Diversity Index. And so, for example, you can see here this map, and what you see here are the affiliations, the country affiliations of all of the board members, editorial board members of the journals that we analysed. And as you can see, there's a concentration in certain English-speaking countries, the US, the UK, Australia, and not much diversity beyond that. One of the things we wanted to do is really look to see if this was something that was seen across the journals or whether some journals were more diverse than others. So just a brief overview of the Simpsons Diversity Index. It was something new to me, which is why I'd like to share it with you. It has its origins in ecology, measuring the biodiversity within a particular geographic area. But it's being used in many studies to measure the diversity within different communities. So for example, there's a study looking at the backgrounds of keynote speakers at conferences. The Simpsons Index draws on both the richness and abundance within a community. So what that means is how many categories, that might be countries, but also how many people are within those categories. So just having one or two tokenistic inclusions in your community is not going to impact your score very much. What you need is a diversity of different people from different categories, however you're going to measure diversity. Of course, this is a quantitative measure. There are some limitations that we talk a little bit more in the paper, but mainly is that as a quantitative measure, it's not going to tell us how or why a particular academic community is diverse or not, and we need to complement our findings probably with some qualitative and reflective analysis. So this is what the formula looks like. If you're like me and you're not a quantitative person, this might look a little scary, but actually it's quite simple, and I will take you through it step by step. But basically the information that we need to know is n, small n, which is the number of individuals in each category. And then we need to know the big N, which is the total number of people in our whole community, whether that's an editorial board or conference speakers or published authors, etc. So what we're going to need to find out to get our D, our score, is 1 minus the sum of n, small n, multiplied by n minus 1, and we're going to divide that by our big N, our total number of individuals, multiplied by n minus 1. And we're going to use no special tools, but I'm going to take you step by step on how to work that out for your community. So what you'll get is a score between 0 and 1, and 0 basically means no diversity, and 1 is infinite diversity, and what you're going to get is a number between that. So if you look to our example, which is the board member affiliations of 947 board members. And let's take a look here. So for example, we have this journal, 43 board members. They're all from one country and of course one region. And so the index is 0, meaning no diversity. If we look up here to this journal, there are 34 board members, from 14 different countries, and 4 out of 5 regions are represented. So at the country level and at the region level, we've got quite a high score compared to some of the other areas. If you look to, let's say, this journal, we have 29 board members, again 14 countries, and actually even more regions represented, but we have a lower index here. And what that means is, although all regions are represented, there is a concentration of individuals in a smaller number of regions than the others. And so what we also need to make sure is that we go back and look at our data and actually see what's happening. So the index is shows us some trends, but we do need to go back into the data and to look really carefully at what's going on behind the scenes. Okay, so let's get ready to find our diversity indexes for our academic communities, and we need to prepare our data. What you need to look at is who is in your community and what are the categories that you want to measure. So this table here is just some fake data that I just made up, although it's fairly representative of what we've seen in different academic communities that we have analysed over the last few years. We have 100 people, and so there are 10 from Australia. This let's say this is board members. We have the most from the USA, just 1 from India, 1 from Kenya, but you can see USA, UK, Australia widely represented. Okay, so next I'm going to move over to the spreadsheet. So I'm using WPS, which is a kind of equivalent to Excel. You don't need any special tools. I'm sure that there are other ways to do this, but this is, I think, a way that we can, I hope that anyone could do this without needing any specialized tools or any specialized training in qualitative techniques. So what I want to do first, well, what I've already done is I've worked out all my N values, my small n, so 10 for Australia, 8 for Canada, etc. And what I also need to work out is my big N value. And if we remember, the N value is basically everyone in the community. So I'm just going to press auto sum, and I've got 100 people. What I want to do next is to do this top part of the algorithm. So I want to get small n multiplied by n minus 1. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to press the equal sign to get the calculation going. I want n, so I'm just going to press here, multiplied by, this is the asterisk in Excel and WPS. I'm going to open the brackets, n one more time, minus 1, close the brackets, and it should give me a number, and that is 90. So that does make sense. So what I'm going to do now is just to click on the top one, drag it all down, and Control D. And what that's going to do is going to repeat that function for all of my rows, so I don't have to worry about all that. So what I need to do next is to find the sum of all of these, and that's really easy to do. Once again, I'm just going to do the auto sum, and that's 1,104. Just so I like to keep everything all together. Basically now we've finished this top part, which is the sum of n multiplied by n minus 1. So I'm actually just going to copy that over. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is to get this bottom part of the formula, and this one's quite easy. So I'm just going to pop it here. Again, opening up the equation. So I'm looking for big N, the total population, and I'm going to multiply the asterisk and open the brackets by itself minus 1, closing the brackets or the parentheses, and there we go. So what I've got now is this number and this number, and to get inside the brackets I need to divide them. So once again I'm going to open up, and we're looking at this divided by this, and we're going to get a number here. Now we're going to get a number here that in the past has been used as the index, but what we find if we use the number as it is now is that as the diversity gets higher, the number gets lower, and as diversity gets lower, the number goes higher. So it logically doesn't make any sense, and it's all a little bit too confusing. So what most formulas you'll find for the index now actually include the 1 minus, so that it makes more logical sense. So in this last section I'm just going to do equals 1 minus and then this number here, which is what we calculated here. And so what we find is that the Simpsons index for this particular community of 100 let's say board members is 0.888, which is quite high. We do have to be careful when comparing different communities, because each community is unique and it might be different sizes and things like that that will affect. It's probably much safer to compare the same community perhaps over time, but there is merit in looking to see trends across communities and to see if there's areas where improvements can't be made. So let's say, for example, if we had many more people, let's say there are 127 from the US, we're going to get our number here is going to go quite down here. So that's how to calculate the Simpsons Index of Diversity for whatever community you'd like to analyze and for whichever category. It doesn't have to be nationalities, it could be regions. You could be looking at linguistic diversity. You might be looking at the nationalities of the community members. But it is one tool of many that you might like to apply to have a look and see areas that you might like to improve in inclusion in your academic community. So if you have any questions, please add them in the comments, and we'll also add a link to the paper so you can see some of our findings about the internationality or lack thereof in higher education scholarship. Thanks for listening.